So for some reason, Lauren Chen is openly pushing Nazis. So over the weekend, Lauren Chen, who's a host for The Blaze and hilariously describes herself as the only sane person who says Canadians aren't funny, went full Groyper simp clickbait maniac and retweeted a video of Nick Fuentes saying Nick Fuentes with a more balanced and rational take on Israel-Palestine than the entire political class. Oh, really, Lauren? So if you don't know who Nick Fuentes is, your life is better off. He's a Weasley little white supremacist, Holocaust-denying anti-Semite who's got a cult following online. And so Lauren Chen apparently sees this as a chance to get what I call parasite clicks. She gets the rage clicks Nick Fuentes gets from people who hate him, and she gets the support of his band of fans. So in the clip she shared, to nobody's surprise, with two working brain cells to rub together, which apparently excludes Lauren Chen, he's just lying. His smarmy bullshit is dripping with the anti-Semitic lie that Israel is intentionally committing a genocide against Palestinians in Gaza.
At the same time, we can call a spade and say that what is about to happen in Gaza is unspeakably horrifying and evil. And everything that the Jews are saying about what Hamas did, well, we know that they're full of shit. Because at the same time that they cry about Israeli civilians being killed, they're about to kill 10 times as many people deliberately. And it makes them the same. It makes them exactly the same. How is it any different?
He's pushing exactly the same propaganda talking points that Hamas is pushing, that people like Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar are pushing, and that pro-Hamas media is pushing. The lie that Palestinian civilian casualties are being intentionally targeted by Israel, which is not true, and the lie that defensive actions of Israel are the same morally as the terrorist actions of Hamas. And why are people like Nick Fuentes saying the same shit as people like Rashida Tlaib? Well, because they're united by a common cause, which isn't the Palestinians, it isn't freedom, it's hating the Jews. What's crazy here is that he can't even help himself. Most anti-Semites we're seeing right now are at least kind of good at saying Israel or Zionism instead of the Jews. Not Nicky Fuentes, though.
The Jewish state. The Jews.
And this is the argument Lauren Chen believes is balanced and rational, let alone the fact that in another clip from the same rant, which for some reason she doesn't share, he said he doesn't even care about the Palestinians, he only cares about using this as a PR strategy against Jews.
And so to the extent that Russia is rolling that back, or China is rolling that back, to the extent that Israel is being led into a trap which will alienate it from the world and diminish its influence, then we have to support these causes. We have to be strategic about it.
Because we live in a world where if you're caught being mind-numbingly dumb, the only strategy is to keep doubling down. So she replied to her initial post with this: "He's a far-right extremist. I've seen y'all literally call for genocide this week, while Nick is here advocating for peace and prayer between Jews and Muslims. Spare me your moral outrage. You're in no position to call anyone else a radical." So Lauren uses a logic trick you see all the time here when people are caught with their pants down online. Her first post said that Nick Fuentes was more rational and balanced than the entire political class. This is a political class that includes people who support Israel, don't support Israel, want to fund Israel, don't want to fund Israel, want to bomb Gaza, don't want to bomb Gaza, want to go to war with Iran, don't want to go to war with Iran. But because she's dumb, she wants to dumb things down and pretend the political class has one view, and it's the view she hates. So when people point out how idiotic she looks sharing a Nazi as her idea of balanced and rational, she moves the goalposts saying, "I've seen y'all literally call for genocide this week, and that Nick is advocating for peace and prayer between Jews and Muslims." So first off, no, he's not. He hates both of them, so she's putting words in Nick's mouth. But she's also reinventing her first point to defend herself. It works, unless you can read. And then in another post, she said this: "I think it's very important to those frothing at the mouth for war to see that even Nick Fuentes is viewing this situation with more humanity than they are. You can call Nick a bigot, but he at least has not advocated genocide." Except he has, against Jews. Here's just one quote from Lauren's favorite Nazi: "We're in a holy war, and I will tell you this, because we're willing to die in the holy war, we will make them, Jews, die in the holy war." Translate that into Arabic, and that's what Hamas is saying. Also, Lauren Chen says she's anti-war, but I'm guessing that doesn't include holy wars against Jews. And let alone the fact that she's on social media liking posts from other anti-Semites, like Jake Shields, who's proving that it is possible to keep on tweeting without a brainstem. After Israel announced that they'd be turning off Gaza's internet, because why shouldn't you provide free internet for the people trying to kill you? His response was, "This will make it so the world is unable to see the slaughter of innocent women and children Israel is about to unleash." So that's what Lauren Chen liked. Just like she liked other posts by white supremacists celebrating their online success without, quote, Zionist donors, or posts accusing Israel of genocide. But guys, she's just fighting for the truth. And this isn't even the first time Lauren Chen has simped for Nick Fuentes clicks. She's been tweeting about him for months and defending him for months. Not overtly, because even she wasn't dumb enough until this week to do that, but subtly, what the left love to call winking at the other side. Because here's the truth, she knows what she's doing. She just hopes her audience doesn't. The problem with Lauren Chen is that she's everything that's wrong with the world of idiots masquerading as conservative commentators, but who don't have really any values and will happily team up with literally anyone if it gets them attention. Why do you think so many conservative commentators queue up to kiss Andrew Tate's ass? Now, when it comes to Israel, Lauren Chen's supposed position, and one that she's had for a few years, is that we shouldn't fund Israel or any other nation. And you know what? That's fine. I have plenty of conservative friends who don't think we should fund Israel. But given how many people there are out there who don't think we should fund Israel, who also aren't Nazis who have called for the murder of Jews, isn't it amazing that she managed to find the one Nazi who has called for the murder of Jews? What a coincidence. Of all the people in all the world who oppose funding Israel, she chose the Hobbit Nazi. Here's the thing. The fight against anti-Semitism is the most important thing to me. And yes, the fight against anti-Semitism includes the fight against Hamas and the Squad and left-wing media making excuses for them. But if we actually want to win and we actually want to keep Jews safe, then it has to include calling out people supposedly on our side for the same anti-Semitic bullshit. I don't care if people don't want to send aid to Israel. I care when they throw themselves behind white supremacist, Holocaust-denying anti-Semites. Lauren Chen thinks Nick Fuentes is rational and balanced, a man who thinks Jews have no place in Western civilization because they're not Christians, a man who has called for the murder of globalists who run the media, and a man who has called for holy war against Jews. It mattered when conservatives ran cover for Kanye West and his defenders, and it matters now when conservatives elevate, defend, and celebrate perhaps the most notorious white supremacist Nazi in the country. But I do want to make one thing clear. I don't want Lauren Chen fired. Free speech is important even for morons. But what I do want is for people out there who care about the truth and care about conservatism and care about the West to choose their heroes a bit more wisely. Because if you're listening to Lauren Chen, you're supporting someone who is cheering on the success of white supremacists on social media, who is holding up Nazis as an example of rational and balanced thought, and is pushing the same propaganda Hamas is pushing, just translated into English. Doesn't exactly sound too conservative to me. Britney Spears is in the news again, writing in a memoir that Justin Timberlake pressured her into getting an abortion 20 years ago.
In her new memoir, The Woman in Me, Spears says their high-profile romance wasn't what it seemed.
Hey, what's up, man?
Spears says she knew Timberlake had cheated on her, but decided to let it go. She also says she became pregnant with Timberlake's baby at one point in their relationship. Spears says Timberlake was unhappy about the surprise pregnancy and thought they were too young to have a child. They decided to terminate the pregnancy. Had it been her choice alone, Spears said, she would not have gone through with the abortion.
Now, I usually don't talk about the lives of celebrities because 1, I don't care, 2, it's not important, and 3, I really don't care. But every now and again, there are stories out there that are important because they show something that's truly broken in our society. And this time, it's that men really suck. So here's what she wrote about the abortion.
In excerpts exclusively released by People, Britney claims she had an abortion while dating Justin Timberlake between 1999 and 2002. Writing, "I loved Justin so much. I always expected us to have a family together one day, but Justin definitely wasn't happy about the pregnancy. He said we weren't ready to have a baby in our lives, that we were way too young. If it had been left up to me alone, I never would have done it. To this day, it's one of the most agonizing things I have ever experienced in my life."
And I know a lot of people like to focus on women in the abortion debate, but what about the men? What about the fact that the vast majority of abortions don't happen because the woman just wants to kill the baby or because she's worried about health concerns, but because the man who also created that baby sucks? 73% of women who get abortions say they did it because they can't afford a baby. Why isn't the man providing? 42% say they got abortions because they're not married. Why isn't the man proposing? 14% said that they didn't have enough support from a male partner. Why isn't he being supportive? 12% say their male partner doesn't have a job. Why isn't he getting a job? 48% are worried about being a single mother or having relationship problems. Why doesn't the man step up? And somehow most disgustingly of all, 14% said their male partner wanted them to have an abortion. And that 14% seems to include Justin Timberlake. The fact is, we've bred generations of men to be even worse than the men of the past by giving them the ultimate get-out-of-jail-free card. All under the banner of feminism and women's rights. Now men can get away with whatever they want, and all it costs is killing a baby. 73% of all abortions are because the man who helped create that child is a crappy man. He's either lazy, unsupportive, selfish, or some combination of all three. And if pregnancy is actually that scary to you, don't get someone pregnant. It's actually really easy. Here's a radical idea. If the idea of pregnancy terrifies you that much, don't have sex. You're not ready to have sex if you're not willing to take on the consequences. But like Justin Timberlake apparently, we've created decades of weak men who avoid responsibilities, like children who kick and scream and shout when something goes wrong. And what's the outcome? Women abandoned and pressured into making decisions that, based on a lot of evidence, can ruin their lives. Try and remember that Britney Spears is a person. She's not a freak show to enjoy or mock. She's a human being who now says she was pressured into murdering her child. If you were one of the millions of people gossiping about her mental collapse or watching her bizarre knife videos or tweeting out "Free Britney," but now you don't care that Britney Spears was apparently coerced into murdering her baby, then you don't care about Britney Spears as a person. And it's this complete lack of empathy that's part of the problem. Because what I'm seeing is a woman like so many other women who got an abortion because she slept with a crappy man who wants everything but will give nothing back. It's really easy just to criticize these women, but why does the man get away with it time after time? Maybe they deserve blame too. So one of the worst parts of anti-Semitism is the blood libel, the really disgusting accusation that Jewish people use the blood of victims in religious rituals, and it's now developed into just Jews being bloodthirsty and violent. It spread like wildfire in the Middle Ages, but now it's making a real comeback thanks to Palestinian terrorists, Democrats, and the media. So I'm sure you've all seen reports coming in of a hospital in Gaza that was apparently destroyed by an Israeli airstrike.
The Palestinian Health Ministry says the Baptist Hospital in Gaza City, that's the northern half of Gaza, has taken a direct hit from an Israeli airstrike. They are saying at minimum, 300 people are dead. Now, we have not been able to verify that.
The only problem is that the only source for this was the Gaza Health Ministry, which is a propaganda wing for Hamas and lies about Israel just all the time. But that's enough for the media. Basically, every outlet out there was just running with this story. The same outlets who comb through every single Israeli report with a fine-tooth comb and make sure it's as politically correct as possible, like calling terrorists militants or gunmen or resistance fighters. They basically let Hamas write this story. Here's what the New York Times reported. Israeli strike kills hundreds in hospital, Palestinians say. CNN, hundreds killed in Israeli strike on Gaza hospital, Palestinian officials say. Wall Street Journal, Israeli airstrike on Gaza hospital kills more than 500 Palestinians, officials say. BBC, hundreds of people have been killed in an Israeli strike on a hospital in Gaza, according to Palestinian officials. Associated Press, Hamas says Israeli airstrike on Gaza hospital kills hundreds as Biden heads to Mideast. LA Times, at least 500 killed in Israeli airstrike on Gaza City Hospital, Gaza Health Ministry says. Do you notice the theme here? And I'm not even going to bother telling you what Al Jazeera said, but I'm sure you can guess. But politicians were all over this too. Rashida Tlaib tweeted this. Israel just bombed the Baptist hospital, killing 500 Palestinians, doctors, children, patients, just like that. POTUS, this is what happens when you refuse to facilitate a ceasefire and help de-escalate. Your war and destruction only approach has opened my eyes and many Palestinian Americans and Muslim Americans like me. We will remember where you stood. And Ilhan Omar tweeted this. Bombing a hospital is among the gravest of war crimes. The IDF reportedly blowing up one of the few places the injured and wounded can seek medical treatment and shelter during a war is horrific. POTUS needs to push for an immediate ceasefire to end this slaughter. There's just one little problem. None of this is true. And it's not true based on multiple sources, including Joe Biden, who looks like he's on his deathbed.
I was deeply saddened and outraged by the explosion at the hospital in Gaza yesterday. And based on what I've seen, it appears as though it was done by the other team, not you. But there's a lot of people out there not sure. So we've got to overcome a lot of things.
But here he is saying the same thing before the Adderall wore off.
I was outraged and saddened by the enormous loss of life yesterday in the hospital in Gaza. Based on the information we've seen to date, it appears the result of an errant rocket fired by a terrorist group in Gaza.
And as news came out, including forensic analysis, video evidence, and images from the ground, including the fact that it looks like the blast was in the parking lot, not the hospital, media outlets just got the eraser out. The New York Times went from Israeli strike kills hundreds in hospital, Palestinians say, to at least 500 dead in strike on Gaza hospital, Palestinians say, to at least 500 dead in blast at Gaza hospital, Palestinians say. This isn't even the first time this has happened in 1 week. The media rushed to blame Israel for bombing a convoy of escaping Palestinians, and why? Because the Palestinian groups told them so. But after 5 minutes of investigation, it looked like it was a Palestinian IED. And the story just went away, just like this story will go away. Our mainstream media went to the people who murdered innocents at a concert, decapitated babies, raped women in the street, burned families alive, kidnapped children, and tortured captives, and went, yeah, you seem like a good source. It's like reporting on World War II by just retweeting Goebbels, which is basically what the New York Times did at the time. Because this isn't a bug, it's a feature. The danger of a blood libel targeting Jews is that it's then used to justify violence against Jews. These headlines are already out there. These tweets from pro-Hamas Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib are already out there, and they're still out there, by the way.
Continue to watch people think it's okay to bomb a hospital.
Because the goal isn't the truth. The goal is to fuel anti-Semitism, fuel violence, and fuel hate. They know what they're doing. It's up to us to stop listening to them. So for some reason, the entire climate change cult rushed to make this mentally unstable child, Greta Thunberg, their hero. And even though she's technically an adult now, she's still acting like a child, proving yet again how stupid she is. After Hamas attacked Israel, which involved the rape, torture, mutilation, burning alive, and murder of innocent men, women, children, and babies, and the kidnapping of at least 200 people just because they're Jews, she didn't respond. But the second the Jews dared to defend themselves against terrorism, suddenly she found a voice. So first she shared a propaganda video from Amnesty International, which is a virulent anti-Semitic organization, calling on Israel to provide the same people who attacked them with free electricity and water. No comment on the environmental impact of Hamas digging up water pipes to use for rockets to kill Jews, of course. And then she shared this image, which might just be the most tone-deaf image of all time. It's a picture of jobless young women striking from their non-existent jobs in solidarity with Palestine and Gaza. Here's what she said. Week 270. Today we strike in solidarity with Palestine and Gaza. The world needs to speak up and call for an immediate ceasefire, justice and freedom for Palestinians and all civilians affected. Nothing about the Jews slaughtered by Hamas, of course. Nothing about the people still held hostage. And she even found a token moronic Jew to sit next to her with a sign saying, "This Jew stands with Palestine." Oh really? Do you? Prove it. Fly to Gaza. See how long you're left standing then. And then Greta included a list of places to find out more information, and guess what? They're all pro-Hamas propaganda outlets, including If Not Now, which is a group run by blindly radical fake Jews using their supposed identity to advocate for their own destruction. Now, I know the Western world has an almost endless supply of stupid young women who would be raped, tortured, and killed the second they got within reach of the terrorists they're defending. But can we all at least wake up to the fact that Greta Thunberg, the head of the climate cult, is just a fucking idiot?
How dare you?
It's one thing for a random person to be this stupid. It's another thing for her to be a cultural hero defining policy with her tantrums. And if she is going to stand with Gaza, then she could at least bother to explain how burning Jewish families alive in their cars is good for the environment.
All I got is my degree. You know, people say, get your degree, but then they don't talk about how you need experience. The degree was the experience!
So this video is going viral of a young 20-something woman upset with America because she's not making six figures straight out of college with a marketing degree.
I have a bone to pick with America! So I'm headed to my serving job. I fucking hate it. I fucking hate it. Tell me why I make more money serving. I have my literal business marketing degree that put me in a cute $80,000 in debt. And I make more serving sushi rolls because I've been applying to marketing jobs for weeks now. And the pay cut is insane. Insane. But the jobs that are like a cute $150,000 to $200,000 a year, I'm not getting those. I'm a almost 25-year-old, my birthday soon, almost 25-year-old chick going against, you know, corporate ass America, people with so much experience. All I got is my degree. You know, people say, get your degree, but then they don't talk about how you need experience. The degree was the experience! I need to relax.
Also, you've got to love the cliche of a Gen Zer complaining about money in corporate ass America while pounding back a $9 Starbucks and filming a TikTok on a $1,000 iPhone. And yeah, it's fun to laugh at the lazy Gen Z stereotype who gets out of college with a useless degree and doesn't understand why people aren't immediately throwing six-figure salaries down at their feet. The jobs under a cute $150,000 to $200,000 a year, The median household income in the country is around $75,000. The vast majority of the country makes less than the cute income she just expects to make because she has a marketing degree. But I want to raise one thing. She should be upset, because she is a victim here. People like her, let's call them gullible idiots, have been told by the educational industrial complex that all they have to do is go to college, get a degree, any degree, and they're set for life. They're told they can take out massive amounts of debt because they will be making $150,000, $200,000 straight out of college on the other end, but none of that is true. Having a marketing degree doesn't mean you deserve anything. Yeah, she needs to change her attitude when it comes to working her way up the chain, but she's still a victim here. Not of corporate America, she's a victim of American academia. College is worth it if it actually teaches you skills that help you earn more on the other end. If you're going to spend 4 years and tens of thousands of dollars, maybe more, on a marketing degree and end up serving sushi because the starting pay on your industry isn't high enough, then yeah, that's on you, number one, but it's also on American colleges serving you up a crappy product. The truth is, for some people, it's just not worth it. People need to realize that college is just a money-making industry now, tricking people like this woman into handing over vast amounts of money for nothing in return.